He spent 3 years overseeing the country's economy. But on Friday, handcuffed and escorted by the police, he headed to prison for 8. Alexei Ulyukayev spent years as an influential figure in the Russian elite, but he never made it to Vladimir Putin's inner circle. The man he accepted a bribe from, though, is considered the president's top lieutenant. Oil executive Igor Sechin was a rival of Ulyukayev, who wanted more state control of the economy. Sechin wants less. As Ulyukayev's sentence was being read out in court, it was business as usual at the country's central bank. The Bank of Russia lowered its key rate for the 6th time this year. While many analysts expected the move, they didn't foresee the sharp cut of half a percentage point. The central bank attributed the rate reduction to lower inflationary risks. Price pressures are expected to continue after OPEC extended its production cuts last month. Inflation has slowed more than expected this year, hovering at 2.5%. The bank expects it to rise near its 4% target by the end of 2018.
We held open the prospect of a certain reduction in the key rate in the first half of 2018.
The bank is keeping its growth forecast for this year at 1.7 to 2.2%, but it's raising its projections for next year. In his annual press conference on Thursday, Putin gave a bullish outlook on the economy, applauding the country for overcoming lower oil prices and international sanctions.
The government is acting quite confidently, and the results of its work are satisfactory. The return to steady economic growth and to resolving some other issues, to steady macroeconomic development, which is definitely the basis for growth in future, speaks to this.
As for his political future, Putin is gearing up for a 5th and possibly final term as Russia's leader. The Russian parliament voted on Friday to set March 18th as the date for the presidential election, which means campaigning could begin soon. Ulyukayev's conviction is unlikely to have an impact on Putin's election chances. With approval ratings of more than 80%, he seems to be on a smooth path to retaining power for another 6 years. Laila Humairah, TRT World.
Now, for more, let's bring in our editor-at-large, Craig Copetas, joining us live from Paris. Craig, great to see you on the show again. Now, Craig, you just can't make this stuff up. This guy was Russia's economy minister just a month ago, and then he's given 2 baskets. He says one is sausages and allegedly thinks the other is wine, but it isn't fine wine. It's $2 million. And then he's sent to jail for 8 years. My question, was this a setup?
Well, first of all, you can make this stuff up in Russia. It happens all the time. Was it a setup? Well, you know, we'll let history be the judge. But remember, it's election season, and corruption is a main complaint of the Russian voter. So what better way to deal with this than send a high-level official from Putin's, red band, the Banda Krasnaya, to prison where he can look out his window and count the birches in Siberia while Putin stays home and counts the votes in the ballot box. Okay. This is how it works.
Now, what issues specifically do you think that Vladimir Putin and Rosneft's CEO had against Alexei Ulyukayev? I mean, this really reminds me, it just sounds like Mikhail Khodorkovsky all over again, and also a bit of, Alexander Litvinenko's assassination. It's like a fusion of everything together.
Well, I'd suggest it's a lot different here. This fellow was part of what's known as the Kremlin ration, which means he was feeding off the setup that was created by the some 800,000 KGB agents who were left when Gorbachev and communism fell, and who created this new government. Now, throughout Putin's term, there's a Russian word you need to know. It's called kozrashot, and what that means is economic accountability. In Russia, you hear that word a lot because Putin's base wants to have a better life. They want economic accountability. So what better way to say that, look, we're trying, we know corruption's an issue, We're getting rid of the guy in charge of it. We're putting him behind bars. Everything's going to be better. And a great deal of the public, because Putin controls everything, the media, the newspapers, the radio, you name it, they'll go for it.
Okay. Now, let me move you on to interest rates even. Russia's central bank delivered a bigger cut than was expected. Why?
Well, there's an old tradition in Russia. Whenever there's a vote, even back in the Soviet days, you'd go to the polling station and there'd be little gifts for you on a table which you could take home for voting. Now what they're doing is lowering interest rates because this will allow Russian consumers to borrow money at a lower rate of interest. Again, it's election season. This is what goes on there. I don't think that I'm certain this has absolutely nothing to do with the Russian ruble's relationship to the international financial markets. You know, he's looking for votes in Vladivostok with this.
Okay. Now, something else related to Russia that's been making headlines. The chief of the British Defence Staff has warned that Russia could cut underwater cables and that this could affect $10 trillion in daily financial transactions and global communications. Now, how do you stop something like this, and why would Russia want to do this?
Well, first of all, you can't stop something like that. This has been a concern for many years within the intelligence community. Why would you want to do that? The Russians would want to do it to create mischief. So would the North Koreans. There's a lot of people who would like to do it. It sounds like something out of a James Bond movie, but that technology does exist to do it. And quite frankly, if someone wanted to do it, it would be real hard to stop them. It's a big, big fear within the intelligence community. No question about that.
Okay, Craig, we've run out of time, but just one thing to tell you, be very careful with your Christmas hampers. Make sure it is wine. That was Craig Copetas for us in Paris.